So Tyson Chandler had did a sit down where he gave insight onto what happened to that fun-loving 2012 to 2013 Knickstape team. That season in hindsight was Melo's best year as a Knick, as not only he was able to capture a scoring title, but we've seen role players like J.R. Smith win Sixth Man of the Year, and also the team was able to put a bow tie ending to the Kevin Garnett, Ray Allen, Paul Pierce Boston Celtics, who have once dominated that Eastern Conference. But unfortunately, heading into the second round, the Knicks were dealt a surprising loss to a young Paul George at the time coming up, as they entered the second round being the favorites in that series. Well, you guys check out what Tyson Chandler had to say, and every once in a while, I'll check in.
With all that talent, why didn't it work? And the second question is, who's to blame? That was a hell of a team, dog.
It was. We allowed the success that we had get to us. And we was in chill mode, like.
Got complacent?
Yeah, like as if we had done something. And I remember me and Jason was just coming off of off the championship from Dallas, and then Jason came 2 years later. And then so now we're making this run, and it was like we were both trying to speak it into existence, different part of the locker room. So Jason.
Now this Knicks roster was very unique because they did have a combination of vets, guys like Rasheed, Wallace, Tyson Chandler, and Jason Kidd, following by guys entering their prime years in their mid-20s.
We would take certain tasks, I would take certain tasks. And we were rolling. And then up until the playoffs, for some reason, we won the first series, and then we got laxed. We were supposed to, so we finished Boston. We beat Boston.
What seed were you guys going into the playoffs? I don't remember.
We were top three. Maybe Miami was
it one or two, or we were 2 or 3?
2 seed. I thought it was 2 seed.
Yeah, we were top 3. I can't remember if Miami or I don't know if India. I don't know who had to know because we had home. So
the Knicks were the 2nd seed, Miami was the 1st seed, and Indiana was right underneath us.
I think Miami might have been 1, might have been 2 or something like that. And we was whooping Miami that year. Like, because Melo was like on that year.
Once again, that year Melo won the scoring title. It was a hell of a year, by the way. Hell of a year. But that team did signify the peak of the Melo era of being on the Knicks.
And so we played the Boston series. We had to play one more. We had to play. We should have beat them. We should have handled them, and we should have swept them. I think it was.
Facts. They definitely should have swept them. J.R. Smith elbowed Jason Terry, causing a suspension from Game 4, and that's the game that Knicks lost. So they were still up 3-1, and by the time J.R. Smith came back, that's when his shooting slump started. And they dropped that game also, so they had to play a Game 6 against the Celtics. And the Celtics at that time, they were at the end of their roads. But that suspension of J.R. Smith kind of threw a monkey wrench in the Knicks' momentum during those playoffs.
And then we ended up having to play either 5 games or 6 games.
6,
I can't remember.
Think, yeah.
So if it was 6, we should have beat them in 5, and then we ended up having to go to the 6. The 6th game, Indiana Pacers had wrapped up their series. If we say we should have won 5, and then we both would have had just say 3 or 4 days of rest or whatever, and then played. We had to play an extra game, so then we finished on Friday, and then Game 1 of the playoffs for the next series was on a Sunday. It was an early game, and we didn't have a shoot-around. So they canceled shoot-around, which me and Jay was like, wait, no. Like, we're going to another series. Like, we got to.
Now, notice how Tyson Chandler said him and Jay Kidd, once again, they're not only serving as the vets, but those two guys are the experienced NBA champions, defeating LeBron James, Chris Bosh, and Dwayne Wade all in their primes in the finals. So they already know what level of preparation and just what approach to have to execute in those key moments. And just the Knicks missing that shoot-around going into the Pacers series was already sort of a red flag.
Prepare for this team. No, we're gonna do it. We're gonna go over that shoot-around the next morning, or during the morning of the game. So we ended up not being able to have a shoot-around. So we ended up not being able to go over our strategy.
Yeah.
That falls on Mike Woodson right there. Who knows what's the politics at MSG, as his whole assistant staff wasn't necessarily handpicked by him, but them not even being able to go over a game plan, it definitely falls on him. And we're going to begin to see Tyson Chandler lay out the trickle-down effects of just them having that lack of preparation all the way at the top end of the leadership board, starting with the head coach, is going to begin to trickle down into the players of just that level of discipline.
So Indiana comes in and sneaks game 1. So now we behind the 8 ball. We win game 2. We go back to Indiana 1-1. They blitzed us. So we come back to New York down 3-1. We win the game in New York. So now we take it back, and then they ended the series in Indiana, and then that was that. I really honestly feel like how we got past that, I feel like we had a legitimate shot to win the chip that year.
Now, the Knicks in that series did come up short in big key moments, especially Carmelo Anthony. And after a few weeks of the elimination, it wasn't a surprise when R&B superstar Rihanna had made comments to J.R. Smith partying hard during the playoffs, that we begin to see that there's a lack of accountability when it came to this team of just maintaining certain disciplines, especially heading into the playoffs. Again, going back to what was said earlier about Mike Woodson not even having a shoot-around before the Pacers series started up. That little bit of mismanagement had a domino effect, and we could only imagine the culture that existed around the team outside of the court heading into that second-round series. And it's very unfortunate a superstar singer had to point out the lack of discipline that was going on with the team behind the scenes.
Came out the East that year. That was
Miami.
2012?
Yep. I want to say that's did Miami win Miami won it the year, because Miami won it the year after that was Miami was trying to go for the back-to-back. And I really feel like we would have beat them that year with that Knicks team. No offense to them. I feel like we had the unit for it.
How great was Melo?
Melo was on.
Yeah, that was peak Melo that season. Peak Melo. He beat out KD for the scoring title. Melo was definitely on one that season.
He was like, I at that time, thought he was challenging for the best player in the league, like at that moment. Because he was doing everything. He could rebound the ball, pass the ball. He was big, he could see all the defense, and he was scoring crazy. He was just super locked in. And then again, we had all the pieces around it.
They definitely did have all the pieces, with 3 former NBA champions in Jason Kidd, Tyson Chandler, and Rasheed Wallace giving them the guidance. But with Melo trying to challenge for that best player in the league, you got to come up big in very key, crucial moments. And it's not a surprise in hindsight when you look at the same scenario with a young Paul George eliminating the Knicks kind of happened to Melo later on in his career down in OKC, and having a young Donovan Mitchell eliminate him, Westbrook, and Paul George in a playoff series. That should never happen. But at the end of the day, there you have it. Tyson Chandler giving us some great insight to that 2012-2013 Knicks team. And it ended in an unfortunate way. But from the outside looking in, it looks like they underestimated a young Paul George in that Indiana Pacers team. And you mingled that with some of the interpolitics at MSG, with Woodson not being able to get a shoot-around out, we begin to understand why the team folded.